the spotlight's been away on the national team, you've done alright.
We've done very well.
You've got 17 or 18 players.
Yeah, you know, we've got a great squad. You know, I think the credit has to go to this group, particularly the young players, in how diligent they are in their work. See, they're in here, they're doing all their analysis work. Their sessions are intense and focused. They understand the opposition, they understand our game plan. They're an extremely coachable bunch, and they're undertaking it on the field, and they're enjoying it. They're doing it with a bit of a smile and without any fear as well, which is a real positive. But I think they know that it's their time to show what they can do. I think they're probably confident in their own skin, and they feel they can challenge for European places. You know, it's funny how things happen, isn't it? And they're growing now into their early 20s, they're maturing as men. Now you talk about Justin, you talk about Ryan Berrington, you talk about Ashley Beck, you know, and then you've got guys then like Richard Fussell and Ian Evans and these sort of fellas who Bennett, who probably maybe in around the fringes, who have points to prove, and that's coming through. So it's been an absolute pleasure the last 6-7 weeks. It really has, and the place is buzzing here. The culture is good, and I think it's important for when the international boys come back that happens. You know, that there's this vibe around the place.
Has it surprised even you, Sean, how well they've done?
No, not at all. It hasn't, because we know that they're quality players. The challenge for us as a coaching team is to gel them as a team, and the LV Cup affords us an opportunity to put some units together, some combinations, and we've done really well in that this year. Grown from last year, and we used roughly the same boys like James Kings of this world, and we've seen the benefits now.
Is it the strongest squad you've known then?
Well, good question. I think it probably is, yeah. Certainly this tier reminds me of the group we had in 2006-07, where we went on the road at the end. They called themselves the Tesco team, which was quite disparaging, and it was nothing like the case, because people like Jason Spice and Philo Tia they blended Paul Jameses and those fellow Andrew Bishops back then, Ian Evanses, Alan Wynne Joneses, into something that eventually won the title. And there's that sort of feel about it. But I will say, perhaps some of the individuals are top quality, and we'll see them in the Welsh shirt.
In terms of sort of genuinely changing your idea of the pecking order in certain positions, has it done that?
Yeah, it has. I mean, as I said, these guys, a lot of them have been in the wings. They played age grade international rugby, sevens, whatever. They're waiting for their chance. They're waiting for a run of games, and all of a sudden, this time now really affords us. The Italians coming in allows us to play, and the LV Cup allows us to play right through these campaigns. So these boys play a string of games, and they realise that, and they go for it, and they show in that, hey, I can be as good.
David Jim and Joe Smith announced some very interesting recently before the international campaign. They kind of earmarked this period as when the Magners League title will be won, when they're without their big names, blah blah blah. Is that something that you agree with in terms of the depth of the squad now will be the reason that a team wins the Magners League?
I would concur with that, totally agree, and I'd go as far as to say, saying that the game immediately after the Six Nations you'd include in that bracket. There's no way that the Ospreys would figure in a playoff if we hadn't done well in this period. You know, if we're off the back of 4 defeats in these 4 Magners games, I don't think we'd be talking about potential players, certainly top 2, you know. Whereas this squad has won, 3 or 4 important Magners games. A very important one to finish that block off on Saturday. If we can come through unscathed, we'll probably be in second position, with 5-6 games to go. So I totally agree with that. I think it's going to prove the case.
The interesting one is, what's the target for the season? Just to get in the playoffs, to get a home draw, to be top of the ladder? What is the Ospreys ambition there?
I think the European competition and last year's first playoff in the Magners has taught us it's really important to try and get a home knockout tie. So, the initial goal clearly is to get into the top 4. You want to be in the knockout stages, and last year's final showed that we can go away to a top venue and win. So that would be the initial You know, of course, results through the season tend to go your way and don't, and if they go your way, then maybe you're pushing. If you get on a run like we are at the moment, then you maybe set your sights a little bit higher as it goes along. And I'm not going to say that before Saturday, but after Saturday, if it goes well, then maybe we can readjust our goals. You know, but at the moment, it's so tight there, and we still got Munster and the Blues in particular to play. We're in and around that scene. That top four would be our aim at the moment.
It seems to me, well, there will be a lot of changes over the summer, so into what happens here, players leaving, etc. You know, futures being decided, etc. and all that kind of stuff. But we see the next generation of Ospreys starting to show that there is life after James Hook, Lee Byrne, etc.
Yeah, we are. You know, we definitely are. You know, I've named the names. It's very difficult to rattle off too many, but you know, underneath those fellas even are the next ones coming through. You know, as a coaching team, we go and view our 16s and 18s often. Our Premiership games, we can't get there. We have a good look at them, and there are guys behind these guys coming through. And I think that's another reason why when they've got their chance, they're taking it, because they realise that this thing is perpetuating, and that's what the advent of regional rugby and the academies was about, really, is having this conveyor belt. And you know, I'm pleased to say, since we've gone regional, you know, we've provided the most caps. There's been 1,925 caps awarded since we've gone regional, and we've provided 35.3% of those. You know, 30 of the guys have been capped for the Ospreys since we've gone regional. 23 of them have originated from within Australia, and that's going to improve. You know, we've won the most games of all the Welsh regions since regional rugby started. We've got the best points difference and the best tries difference. We've won the most trophies. We've been to the most knockout stages. I mean, you know, all the figures are there. Damn lies and statistics, but they do say something. And you know, we can sit here, as I said a couple of weeks ago, comfortable in our own shoes, that we're doing the right things for Welsh rugby, and that graph will keep going. And you're seeing now those sort of fellas as evidence of that.
So I was just saying, when he first arrived, it was very interesting. He said he knew all about the big names that everybody knows about. But he said it was the kids underneath that nobody really knew about, that he was genuinely excited about and thought could be the team that dominates for a while. Is that something that you agree with? That?
It's the sort of thing that turns you on as a coach, because you know, once certain players get to a point, there's a lot of maintenance and tweaking and keeping on top of certain things, making sure they, you know, their habits remain the same, and so it's like finally tuning a fast car, if you like. You know, the ones that are coming up, the raw materials that you see, absolute talent, they're the ones that really turn you on, and you're almost looking a step ahead, and that's the case now. And those are times which you really enjoy as a coach, because they're hungry, they're like sponges, and they are coachable. Yeah, the other fellas are, you know, it's about keeping them mentally on top. They get a lot of rugby, they have a lot of pressure, and they play the big games, so it's slightly different to manage. The excitement does come with the youngsters, definitely.
Always been a tendency, I think, in the Ospreys, where people think that if they play international rugby, they come back to the Ospreys because they're expected to. Does that change now?
Well, I think it hasn't necessarily been totally the case. If you take the hooker situation, you know, in the autumn, Hugh Bennett was taken as a real squad member, whereas Richard Hibbard was our number one here. You know, that's slightly flipped at the moment, where Hugh's having a run of games with us, which is great for him, and you know, all of a sudden Hibbs isn't getting a lot of game time. And what happens when he comes back? So we've learned to treat the situation on a far more individual basis, in terms of how much game time and the form of the guys during a long campaign in Six Nations, but also the way the team's functioning back here. And clearly in the past we've just changed the whole team. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. But I think the guys that are working here now have earned a level of respect and continuity. So we'll just have to wait and see when it comes to Edinburgh time what that will be. I think some of the boys up in the camp will need some time off as well. You know, it's a long period, so mentally as well as physically. So we'll treat that on its merit when it comes.
There's a confidence issue as well, I guess, with playing these youngsters and then turfing out again when sort of the big stars come back, isn't there? It's part of their development.
It's a fine balance, isn't it? The structure of this season isn't perfect for us. Take this week now, we've had 3 players offered back to us, and Warren has stipulated that if they come back, they start. So, those 3 players that are going to be, if we decide to use them, that are going to be moved to a bench or not selected, it's pretty difficult to manage those, isn't it? However, the 3 that have been offered back to us, represent the Ospreys very, very well. They're long-standing Osprey players, and they present the values that this current group is showing as well. So we're quite lucky there, but still, it's no consolation for the guys who are going to miss out, who are playing well and are on a run of games. So those are the issues of a regional coach in modern Welsh rugby, and we face them every day.
Who is the group shot?
We've got Ryan Bevington, Jonathan Thompson, Richard Hibbert. 3 true Ospreys who haven't had a lot of game time the last 6 weeks. Then again, if you look at Duncan Jones, Hugh Bennett, potentially a Jerry Collins, a Tom Smith, a Justin Tipperick. It's tough, isn't it?
Glasgow, what kind of threat do they pose?
On the face of it, not a great season, European Magners compared to last year, but a very dangerous and wounded animal. That would be sort of my summary of them. Got a real pumping against Connacht a couple of weeks ago, didn't play well, and now, last week I've sort of got some resolve and fought back for a good draw at the end against the Dragons. So, all of a sudden the confidence up a little bit, and everybody who comes to Liberty wants to knock us off our block, stop us playing. Our speed of ball is really good at the moment. Our ball presentation and the way Reece is getting the ball when Daniel's moving onto the ball is showing that we're a real potent threat, scoring tries. So I see Glasgow coming down to try and spoil that party, trying to spoil us at that tackle area and harassing us. And of course they're a very dangerous team when they want to be. They've got quick players in and around. Colin Gregg is a good half-back who's very tricky, a young goal kicking 10, and a bit of experience up front. So, always a difficult proposition. Drew at this period, 9-all with them last year, so they can make it really sticky for you. And so, this week we've been about focusing on not soaking ourselves down, and we're on a great run. Hang on now, we show these with the utmost respect, as we have done Connacht, Treviso, and get the job done.
Does it require some different approach from yourselves? And when the kids come in, first of all, no one knows about them. Now they've won a few games, and perhaps people are starting to take notice. So, not the known quantity anymore.
It's interesting you say that, because people taking notice, and that means very little to the group. We just get on with it, whatever. What happens, with all due respect, in the paper and the media and this, that and the other, it may get to the odd individual, but this group is pretty grounded. They know they've got a job to do this weekend, and they'll focus and get on with it. So, I think they know how important it is, as Simon alluded to earlier. This is an essential block to do well in the Magners this year, and we can either undo a lot of good work on Saturday, or we can sit pretty and be confident moving forward for the last part of the season.
I just meant perhaps the opposition and more about you than
they may do. I think there's still a few surprises for them. I don't think they'll know a whole lot, or people like Hanno and Tom Friday. I think they do. But I'm sure they'll do their homework like all opposition, come in to see it. But then whether they can do something about it, we'll see on Saturday.